and welcome to this episode of Decoding Data Analytics. This show is all about analytics from the perspective of global data experts who are CTOs, authors, analytic leaders, hiring managers, and top data professionals. And I'll be your host for the show, Jahanvee, Narang.
And today we have Nevin on this podcast. She is currently working as a senior data scientist at SHEIN, and she has over 7+ years of working experience from Google, SHEIN, top world companies. Hi, Nevin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start with your journey from working at Google and SHEIN as a data scientist. I would love to know your journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. My journey started in a non-traditional way, I would say, because my bachelor's degree is in international relations. So basically, I got my bachelor's. I started international relations, so it's not a BS degree, Bachelor of Science. It's a Bachelor of Arts degree. And I guess the reason that I was interested in along that time is because I had so many friends in more like computer science, information systems. I just happened to meet with people around that department, and I looked at what they were doing versus what I was doing. I was basically trying to write history papers or political science papers, which I was really not into. And I was looking into my friends. They were doing they were building calculators. They were building some fun games, and I was like, this is where I should be. Like, I don't want to be writing papers right now. And fast forward, I didn't quit my bachelor's because I was already like 2 years in, and I just didn't have the courage, when I look back right now, I would totally like quit my bachelor's and start all over again to, more math or more quantitative or computer science related degree. But I didn't quit, but then I decided to have more of like more quantitative degree. And I thought MBA would be the route for me to go to. I did learn from Bachelor of Arts degree. What I learned is more of like soft skills. We presented a lot more than my computer science friends. So I learned things, and I thought maybe I can combine what I learned here, the research skills. And can you hear me well? I think
I can.
Okay, good. So I decided to combine my research and soft skills and I didn't know then that I was going to be a data scientist, or that I would want to be a data scientist. Only thing I knew, I wanted to be some type of programming related role. So okay. MBA, there in the school I went to, there was an MBA in business analytics. So I thought that would be a good transition because, I have the business side already a little bit. Yeah. Now I can get a little bit into analytics side. So MBA I started, and even though I did business analytics, I still didn't get much of like data analysis or much of like programming related courses that I really wanted to. Then I decided to, and then I was in New York, and I decided to move to LA, and because, well, actually, I decided to move to California. I didn't even know where to, but I was like, I'm going to go to California. I know like there's people there who do a lot of like programming related things, and I'm going to go get a degree there because I know if I wanted to be in this field, it would be better for me to be in California. So I moved to California, get my Master of Science in Information Systems degree. Again, it's more related to data science. I think back then this is in 2017, back then there was either no data science degree, or even if it was, nobody knew, it was not a thing. So information systems was the closest one to like data related roles. And I got my degree there. I still didn't believe that I learned all the things that I needed to learn. So I decided to take a bunch of, online courses, books, resources, YouTube, like anything I could find online, to teach myself everything that I needed to do some type of machine learning related role. During my education, I found the machine learning path. I just didn't learn the actual skills from the school. Not so much, theory part, yes, I did learn, but there's not much practice involved. And I didn't know even how to put, okay, I learned a little bit Python. I don't even know how to put that Python knowledge to data analysis or data science. I have no idea how to make the connection between the theory that we learn and the practice. So then I started taking courses, and I built my online portfolio of my projects that I learned on my online courses. And then also I was, as I learned, I was able to go to like Kaggle.com and download a few data sets and then do some data analysis and put that in my portfolio as well. And with that portfolio, I was also posting a lot on LinkedIn, sharing my projects and sharing, like asking for feedback. And all of a sudden, I didn't really get much of attention in the first, very much. I don't even know how many, but I didn't get a lot of attention at first. But one by one, I just started getting a little bit of, feedback from people who were in the industry. And from there, actually, I got my first job as a machine learning engineer at a startup company. The startup company owner reached out to me on LinkedIn because he saw my projects. So I got into the industry that way, basically with my LinkedIn projects. And then you asked about Google and SHEIN, so I'm just going to fast forward to Google and SHEIN. So I started at Google as a data scientist in the Pixel strategy team, Pixel smartphone team. And yeah, it was a great experience. It was not very much so technical team. Only my manager was technical, but the other people in the team was not very it was not in data science. They were technical they were quantitative, let me say, not technical, but they were quantitative people, strategy people, very, very smart people. It was a great experience to learn from, great minds. And then I moved on to SHEIN, and now I'm at SHEIN as a senior data scientist, and I work with the risk team. So basically, we build fraud detection algorithms. We basically try to catch fraudulent activities in all SHEIN platforms with the algorithms that we build. So yeah, that was a long introduction, long background. But let me know if you have any questions.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very inspiring journey. Thank you so much, Nevin, for sharing that. Like, you started from social science background to, full technical data science role, and then you also get a chance to work as a machine learning engineering. So that's like a huge leap. So kudos for that.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. It was a huge leap, but I think my number one savior, I see a lot of people from non-technical background try to get into data. I think my number one thing that I did that really, really worked for me was the portfolio. And I still to this day believe that that is the driving, especially if you don't have any experience or if you don't have a technical degree. Even if you do have a technical degree, if you don't have experience, you need a portfolio. And that was my savior.
Wow, that's a great tip. So, before we move into the deeper understanding of like how to create projects and everything, let's understand and let's give our listeners an understanding and insight of what cutting edge technologies are being used in, top companies like SHEIN and Google and so far wherever you worked at in your journey. What do you think is very, very important?
That's a great question. So from all of the companies that I worked at, all of my experience and looking at my coworkers and what I hear from my coworkers as well is number one thing is Python. It's just the most important programming language in the data field. The reason is that it's very diverse. I mean, you can use that Python for a lot of things. You can use it for data analysis. You can use it for data visualization. You can use it for machine learning, AI. You can use it for a lot even more things than a data professional would need. So that functionality of Python really, really makes it the number one skill that every data professional need. And also it's easy because the libraries, it's an open source language, which means that there's so many people contribute to it, so many great minds contribute to it. So libraries has been there like forever, like pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, those very basic libraries actually makes Python so much easy. I learned Python first and then SQL. And SQL was much harder for me to learn after Python because it was just Python. I just clicked. I really did love the data analysis part of Python, because Python is such a huge programming language. And if you try to learn it, Python as a software engineer versus a software developer versus a data analyst, scientist versus engineer, all of those will differ a little bit. And I think data analysis part of Python really, really clicked with me. And SQL is the second tool, of course, that definitely every data analyst and scientist and engineer would need to know as a tool, definitely, because that's the way that we access data. For the most part, the data lives in some sort of database that you have to access through SQL. So at the very least, you have to know how to pull data with SQL. You don't have to do data analysis within SQL, but I know a lot of people does that too. I just find Python easier for myself. So for the most part, I pull data from SQL, and then I do all of my other analysis in Python. Another one, as I went through my progression as a data scientist, I came across with so many AWS products. Like AWS Redshift is the platform that we used to access our data, which only required for me to know like SQL, PostgreSQL. So it's really nothing different, than knowing just SQL. It's just a platform, a software that you need to just get familiar with, but you don't need to learn additional skill or additional tool to be able to use that. Other tools like AWS has like S3, AWS has so many tools, but they're very user friendly. You either use SQL with it or Python with it to access to it. And then also as I progressed a little bit further, like currently, for example, I use PySpark a lot because it's SHEIN has a lot of transactions and it's big data, and you can't really use traditional libraries in such big data. Like pandas won't work in the data that I work with, especially the pre-processing part. After I do some pre-processing, I can use some pandas functionalities, but I need to pre-process it within PySpark. So that's something that I also got used to a lot within my experience. I think those are the main tools, that if I was starting all over again, I would start with Python and SQL, and then learn a little bit advanced parts like PySpark, and then maybe a little bit natural language processing, because it's very, very important right now. And also, I think Git is another tool that you don't really need to learn, because I think you just learn it as you go. Like you learn it during your job. So you don't really need to go and take a GitHub course. I don't think that's even a thing. I've never taken a GitHub course. You just learn it at the job, basically. So yeah, those are the things that comes to my mind. I feel like it could be a little bit overwhelming, but I think if I summarize it, Python and SQL are the two things that you must learn, and other things come during the job.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially the Git part. If you have a GitHub profile, it really attracts to the interviewers as well, that you have something online already being done and they can just view it then and there, and they can, process it and evaluate you on the spot. So I guess that's a big thing. And apart from this, I feel statistics is also very important. What do you think?
I definitely agree. Statistics is the base. Like everybody thinks math is the base of data science, which definitely there's, statistics and math, they're very much like hand in hand. But I believe statistics is the base of data science and analytics. You don't need to know a lot of math, or you don't need to know a lot of statistics in terms of like the formula and whatever, but you need to understand the concepts to be able to use it in your analysis. So if you see if you understand the distribution of the data, that will come from your statistic knowledge, but you don't have to know that distributions, the distribution related formula, or how to find the probability from that distribution. You don't need to know all those extra detailed, like when we are in school, we learn all these formula because we get tested on the formula and the boring stuff. But when you get actually into the market, the job market, you learned the fun stuff from it, or you use the fun stuff from it. So statistics is very important, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agreed. So moving on to the next question, would love to understand whenever a new project comes into the picture or there's a new ask, what exactly the pipeline looks like in the real world.
That's a great question. So it depends on what company, like it depends on the company, it depends on your role.
Mhm.
For example, in my
Mhm.
current role, I work more as if I'm a machine learning engineer, which means I focus more on the pipeline, the data pipeline. But as a data scientist or a data analyst, from my previous experiences, I'll tell you how usually it looks like being at a project. So a business question comes in, and either your manager or the stakeholder reach out to you, and they tell you the business question that you need to work with. So the number one thing you need to do to understand the business problem. So you ask a lot of questions. This understanding the business problem means that you either meet with the stakeholder or the manager, and you try to really understand what they're looking for. Because for the most part, not the managers, but the stakeholders really sometimes don't know what they're looking for. When I say stakeholder, I mean a client. For example, it could be if you're working at a software company, and if you're meeting with this person who is going to, or the company who's going to buy your software, then the client is that. Or a stakeholder could be a non-technical someone in management within your company. So for the most part, the stakeholder will be most likely non-technical. Your manager could be technical, could explain to you the business problem, but it all falls on you as a data scientist or an analyst to understand what actually they're looking for. This involves a lot of asking questions. And then once you understand the problem, the second part is the data collection. So basically, you know the problem. Now you need to find out what kind of data you need, what kind of data you need to pull from the data sources that you have. This could be the data sources that you already have within the company. Maybe you have a database of all the things that you need, and you pull from different sources, X table, Y table, and then you join them. Or it could even be from a third party. Let's say you really need a data, but you don't have it within the house or within the company, then you might need to reach out to a third party and source it from another company. So those are the data collection process. After the data collection process, then we now have our data. We need to do data cleaning and data pre-processing. So we need to make sure our data is ready for whatever analysis that we're going to do. For the most part, in the real world, data is really not clean. There's missing values, there's outliers, there's wrong entries. So you need to check for those. That's the part of data cleaning and the pre-processing part. And of course, after you're done with this part, the next part is the exploratory data analysis and feature engineering. So basically, next you do some data analysis on your data, understand your data, understand what you're dealing with, what kind of statistical variables, within your data there is, what kind of distribution your data looks like, to understand and to find out what questions you can answer with that data that you have. And then also, if you need extra features, that you can drive from the data that you already have, that's the feature engineering part. And then that you start creating new features. And after that, after you're done with the EDA, feature engineering, if you're a data scientist, most likely you would need to do some type of machine learning, build some type of machine learning algorithm. Or if it's just a data analysis process, from there you probably go to either Tableau or some type of dashboarding tool and create some data visualization. If you're a data scientist, your goal is probably to build a machine learning model. So now, after your data is ready, you can experiment on different algorithms. There's many algorithms, and there's a thing called no free lunch theorem. It means You can't use one algorithm on everything. People really like the ensemble models like random forest or gradient boostings, all those, but you can't use the same algorithm for every problem. That's what it means. So you experiment. And then once you build your model, of course, now the next thing is to validate the model. After you build your model, you need to check how your model performs. That's the model validation part. And we have certain metrics that we follow through depending on the project. And you look for those metrics and you make sure the metrics that you agreed upon in the first step, when you understand the business problem, is valid and it is good looking, basically. And next part would be the deployment and monitoring of the model. Not every company deploys machine learning models, but some companies have to. So that will be the next part.
Wow, this is so detailed and so
Yeah.
informative. Yeah, that's a great pipeline. But I would love to understand. So this would be for someone who's working as a senior data scientist or a data analyst. But for someone just like you mentioned, when you didn't have the experience, you created your own portfolios. So what advice you would have for people to follow the same pipeline and create their own portfolio projects? And what ideas would you like to give in order to create, portfolio ideas? The old Titanic and Iris dataset doesn't work anymore. So, what creative thing they can do to, add value to their portfolio?
Yeah, I think number one thing to do to add value is to, I don't think the data set that you work matters so much. Of course, it matters if it matters if you are aiming for one industry. Let's say I had an experience in healthcare and I want to work in healthcare industry, then I would go for a healthcare data. Other than that, if you don't have a constraint like this, then find any data set that you can and actually start doing. That's what matters. I know a lot of people, which I was the same way, is starting is the most scary part, because you're like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna even start? What kind of questions am I gonna ask? How do I start? That's the scary part. So I think the important part is just to start. And once you start, it comes to you and you just, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should check this too. Maybe I should look at this too. And it one by one, it clicks a little bit more. But yeah, you can definitely follow through that pipeline, download your data, find your data, and then do some cleaning, and then do some exploratory data analysis, and then do some data visualization. I think the important part in portfolios are to have visualizations, because a person who's going to look at your portfolio is probably not going to want to see an Excel sheet or zeros and ones of your machine learning model output. They would want to see some visual results that they can catch what you did in a second, because they're not going to look at your portfolio for a long time. So I think data visualization is also important part. That's why I really like Python, because you can do all of those things in Python. Yeah.
Which is your favorite Python library for visualizations?
Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly. Those are the top three libraries that I use. Matplotlib is the oldest and most established one. Seaborn has more functionality in terms of, you can do a lot more better visual looking plots. Plotly is interactive, so I really like that. It's almost, you can create interactive apps, web apps with it. So it's very interesting to see that.
Oh, that's really interesting. But would love to understand, what ideas do you have in order to create, portfolio? How exactly someone should pick a domain and then get started? Or, you have a data set, but beginners do have this thing that, okay, what exactly they have to create? Because there's no problem statement. Usually in real world, the manager is going to come with the problem statement and then we know what to work on. But if we don't know what the goal is, how exactly to, just get started?
You mean at work, or as a person who is creating their portfolio?
Personal portfolio.
Portfolio. Since you're creating your own portfolio for yourself and you don't really have it's more ambiguous at that sense, because you really don't have the business question that you're working with. What do you need to do? You need to create your own business questions. The data you have, you mentioned that, let's say this person has the data, you said, from the data, you can first start looking at the data and understanding your data. And after you understand your data, maybe you can come up with the questions that you can answer with the data, and then you can come up with the business problem if that's what you're going off of. If I found this Airbnb data, let's say, I think one of the popular ones, I found this Airbnb data, I would really want to work with it, I just don't know what I can do with it. Then you need to go and look at the columns, what columns you have, you understand the columns, and then wait a minute, like I do have the pricing information per neighborhood. Maybe I can find the highest priced neighborhood. Or maybe if there's a booking information, let's say I have the booking dates, I can see what week of the day, what day of the week is the highest booked count. Those type of things. Like when you look at the data, you should be I don't want to say you should be, because it's also requires practice. As you practice more and more, see more and more data, you realize these things. Oh, I could answer this, or I could answer that question with this data. But if you don't have any idea, you can Google it. You can say, Airbnb data analysis examples. I am sure especially if you're downloading it from Kaggle has the data, what's it called? The coding book or something, like the basically notebooks. Yes, the notebooks available for other people's notebooks are available, so you can take a look at those and see what other people have done it. Of course, don't copy it, because if you copy it, you're not going to learn it. But you can get some idea and close that tab, and then now you do it yourself. You got the idea, now you can do it yourself.
That's really amazing tip. Okay, moving on to the next question. One thing which I observed since we started the podcast is your power of telling any story. And I guess data storytelling is very important part of the data job, whether the job profile is data scientist, data analyst, or a data scientist. It's very important to convey the technical information to non-technical people, because at the end of the day, they are the one who is going to take decision. And at the end, we have to support the companies in making this data-driven decision making. So, what's your advice on data storytelling?
Yeah, that's great. That's definitely correct. I think one thing that I see on people who are getting ready and learning the skills to become a data scientist or analyst, they usually skip that part, this data storytelling part. But I think that is very, very important. As you said, we are the technical people who do the project maybe, but the non-technical people are going to make the decision most likely. So you need to be able to convey what you find in your results in a non-technical way, so that those people actually can drive information or drive what you learn from it. They can also learn from it as well. So it is very, very important skill. I think one thing that happens is as you practice more, you learn the skill more. So you start working at a job, let's say you see other people's presentations, you see how other people do it, and you learn from that. Just at your first job, you need to be a sponge. You need to learn from other people. You need to observe other people and how they're doing what they're doing, especially the ones that have been in the company maybe long years or have a couple of years experience. So basically observe how they do. There's also so many books about data storytelling, and people who do a great job at teaching data storytelling. I can give you one name. I think Christopher, on my link.
Storytelling with data?
What's that?
Storytelling with data?
Storytelling with data. I'm not sure. I know his name, but I don't know his company's name. I think Christopher Chin, maybe. Let me check. Yes, he is amazing. If you're into data, if you want to be a data analyst or data scientist, and you need to improve your data storytelling, I would suggest his school. I think he has some online courses, I believe, or some type of thing related to data storytelling. So that would be people like that you can learn from a lot.
Wow, that's really amazing. Moving on to our next question, I would love to understand, you've been through undergrad school, you've been through grad school. So what tips and tricks do you have for people who are, preparing for companies in this hiring freeze period?
Mhm. Yeah, unfortunately, it's like one of the worst times to be looking for a job. It's true for everyone, even for the most professional ones. That is just how the economy is right now. It's although the demand is increasing, the
Mhm.
companies are hiring less, either hiring freezes or they don't even, think about spending that budget to a new hire. So when that's the case, I think the number one thing anyone can do is to upskill. You just need to
Yeah.
upskill and perfect your resume and perfect your portfolio so that when the hiring is, gets more energetic and there's more hirings happening, you are ready. And then as upskilling, you create a better portfolio, and that increases your chances to get an interview. And two, when you do get an interview, you're not like, oh, I don't know what to do, I have like 2 days to like learn all the machine learning concepts. No, don't do that. In this slow process, I think this slow times is good times to actually like learn and focus on learning and focus on getting ready for the times to come. The hiring freeze are not going to be here forever. We've always, there's always fluctuations in this industry. Unfortunately, that's the case. And not just not in this industry, for many jobs is the case. There's always fluctuations. And when there's
Mhm.
downtimes, you just focus on learning and learning and learning and becoming better.
Yeah, that's true. Consistency is the key.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Moving on to almost our second last, it's our second last question. So, what are the top resources, book recommendation, or courses recommendation you have for people who are just starting out, or who have about like, in the entry level experience for about 0 to 2 years?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of resources out there. YouTube is a great resource, free resource. And then also there's, a lot of online courses that you can take from udemy.com, which I think also creates a problem. We have so much resources that people are overwhelmed with it, and they don't know, from what I'm observing from all the DMs that I get on LinkedIn, they don't know which one to take because there's just too many, and they don't know which one is the best. That is definitely a thing. So I think trust is important. If you trust a person, if you know that person has been in the industry and has been working in the industry for years, you're going to learn from them. I think that is important. In school, teachers most of the time, they don't really like people who worked in the industry. They just have been teaching. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the actual real world job market, you really want to learn from someone who have been in your place. So that being said, there's a lot of resources, as I said, Udemy, YouTube, and also other online courses. I have a platform, Data Mastery Academy. If you go to datamasteryacademy.com, I have a SQL course that's out, but I'm also launching my Python course, a Python for data analysis from zero to hero. It's going to be a very comprehensive course. It's going to be hybrid type of course. So it will be drip content. I will give you every week recorded content or recorded lectures, recorded hands-ons, and then every week there will be a lab section where we'll be do live coding and live Q&A, and also there's going to be office hours. So it's just going to be like a university that any university education that I can think of, something combination of that with given the practical knowledge. And there will be real world problems that we will deal with. So it's going to be amazing. If anyone wants to check out, it will be, the first one will be starting on October 16. So I will do some cohorts, first cohort starting in October 16. I don't know when the next cohort will be. So if you're interested in it, I would say jump on the October 16 because I don't know when the next one will be coming. And if you want more information about that, go to datamasteryacademy.com. I'll be doing a free training couple days, October 2nd, 4th, 6th, and then 10th, and then the 12th. So I'll be doing free Python training. And at the end of the training, I will give some special discounts to my Python course. So if you're interested in my Python course, definitely sign up to my webinar and my training, my free Python training. We'll create we'll understand the data analysis with Python in a short amount of time. I will show you how to do data analysis with Python in that free training. So if you're interested, definitely join. Go to datamasteryacademy.com and you will see the free training immediately. Those are the, there's so many other like books. Also, you can learn from one of the books that I really liked when I was learning machine learning. Is the Scikit-learn's hands-on with Scikit-learn, something like that. If you write these in the Google, you'll come up with that exact book that I'm talking about. I think it's by O'Reilly.
Hands-on with machine learning using scikit-learn, I guess. Yeah.
Yes,
I'll
think
link
so.
it down.
Yeah, that's a great book. When I was learning machine learning, that really did help me a lot. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And moving on to our last question. First of all, congratulations for your course. I'm looking forward. I'll link down everything. And moving on to the last question, just one thing I want to understand, and our viewers would love to understand, is that what's your one mantra for success in the industry of data?
Keep learning. I think that is what it is. The thing is, we always need to improve ourselves. That doesn't, I don't want it to come across as a scary thing, because it is not. Once you actually learn the foundations, it's almost like it becomes fun to improve yourself, because it's not, it is process. You really need to like study, but it's not like studying at school. It's more of like, oh, I understand this, I want to understand it more. Like, what can I do? What can I learn? So I think keep learning would be my mantra.
Wow, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Nevin. It was great having you. It was so informative. I can't even tell you. And our learners are going to love it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, if you like the podcast, do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more episodes.